just do it for Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins touchdown. Going deep upfield on the near side, man open, touchdown! Looking deep, he's got a man! Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again! Touchdown! David, tell me what you want to see. Tagovailoa driving. They go for it. Fire to the end zone. Touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. As always, it's another episode of Fin Too Deep, and I am joined by my co-host, Neal Driscoll. Neal, how are you feeling now that the word is official that Vic Fangio is going to be accepting the job for the Miami Dolphins, which, again, I don't know why any of us were even panicking because it coincides with what I heard from originally that nothing was going to be official until after the Eagles were out of the playoff run. So, sigh of relief. How are you feeling, brother? How are you feeling? Because I know it was an emotional roller coaster for you at times.
It was like Busch Gardens in my head, man, and in my heart. But no, it actually ended up all okay. We had a jam-packed week, right? We did an awesome panel earlier in the week with all the guys talking Dolphin content. The whole premise, the major topic of that was, can we land this big fish? And taking a step back of where we are, right? We went in from having probably one of the worst overall coaching staffs in football 18 months ago to right now having probably one of the top 3 coaching staffs in football, right? And I know that
it ain't even complete, and it ain't even complete yet, Neal.
And Chris Richard's out there. Is there a way that we might potentially look at maybe bringing him in as a defense back coach? But the Vic Fangio news is his big news. I said this from the jump. This would be a Tyreek Hill-esque move to me because I truly believe 2 wins we lost because of situational play calling by Josh Boyer last year, and that might be being nice. So 2 more wins changes a lot of things. I'd much rather have been in Jacksonville playing the Jaguars than playing the Buffalo Bills. But it is what it is. I think what it says is this is going to be a dangerous Dolphins team. And Vic Fangio landing him, I mean, it's just you can't name a better move for them to make when that position opened up. And we were all, hoping that this would happen. The Dolphins have started to become the team that hits that big shot. They've become the Kobe Bryant of the NFL. They wanted to improve their wide receiver room last year. We signed Cedric Wilson, and we're all sitting there like, oh, that's a good player, and then boom, the next thing you know, Tyreek Hill's rumored, and then he's here signed within like 3 hours. Yeah. You wanted to improve your defensive coordinator position. You interview a very tight list of candidates, right? You gave Anthony Campanelli an in-house linebacker coach an opportunity to a reason to be happy to be here. You've given him recognition, like, we appreciate your services. We had Chris Richard, who was a head coach finalist for them just a few years ago. Sean Desai, who's one of the brightest young defensive minds in football, and then you get the best coordinator in all of football in Vic Fangio to come to your team. Reason, you know what I'm most excited about? He's going to make Mike McDaniel an even better head coach. Mike McDaniel is going to learn you know what I mean? He is going to. There. I mean, he is going to learn.
I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna one up you, but go lay it down.
He's gonna learn so much.
People are about to call me the biggest two and near in the world because I'm gonna one up you.
I want to hear it. Let's hear from you.
He's gonna make Tua better, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I said this in my 3 Takes Thursday for patrons only yesterday. And this was my 3rd take. He's gonna make Tua better, and I'm gonna lay out the evidence as to why for you. Okay. Since Tua's a rookie, right? 3-4 hybrid, used to blitzing, man coverage, right? That's what he faces in practice. That's what's been in the building for 3 years. Tua does what? Shreds man, shreds blitzes, right? No problems for him. On top of that, we adapted the system from where? New England Patriots. What? New England Patriots. What is he? 5-0 against the New England Patriots because he knows the system so well. Where does Tua struggle? Zone coverage when he's got to start getting off the second read and start seeing. I'll do you even better. 2020, 2 teams he struggled the most against. Staley-led Rams, Fangio-led Broncos. This year, team he struggled against. Who? 2 zone teams at the beginning, right? San Fran, who DeMeco Ryans was running a form of what Fangio does. And then what happens? Goes up against the Chargers. What did the Chargers do? They took away all the explosive plays over the middle, which is what Fangio's known for doing. And what happened? We couldn't beat it. Now, and I'll do even better. 1/3 of the league is either a protege of his tree or runs some form of his system. He's now going to be going up against that all the time in practice. Right. He's now got the godfather of that system in the building. Bro, you're right. It's Tua, McDaniel, the offense are all going to get better because, brother, I'm going to tell you this. We got the cheat code. We got the guy that's going to help. This is how you beat this defense. This is how you beat this look. And think of the disguises he's going to throw to a Tagovailoa in training camp. Tua's going to be seeing things that other guys don't. And you're just going to get iron sharpens iron, brother. And this could literally be the final piece to completing Tua as well. If you actually think about it, because when we talk about zone and waiting on things to develop, and taking things away, that's where he struggles. And this is the system he's going to be practicing. These are the highlights of that system. These are and confusing quarterbacks. This is what that system does best.
Right. Dude, you nailed it. I mean, the worst I've ever felt about Tua personally was that Denver game. That was the worst. We couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? I was like, holy shit. Like, this guy is calling a masterclass. But, the beauty of it really, really is like, when you look at the landscape of this offseason, the biggest domino I think that could change the league is quarterback movement, whether that's Aaron Rodgers going to a team or Lamar Jackson going to a team. Like, that's a huge move, right? Like, a team gets one of those quarterbacks. Outside of those 2 players specifically, I think this is the biggest domino that could have fallen the whole offseason. That's how strong I believe in this move. I think this is a franchise-changing type of move. I actually think that,
bro, they won up the Bevel move.
Right.
Last year, I said, I don't care if you're a free agent or you're a coach. This is one of the best signings, and we saw the impact it had on Tua. Now they've won up the Bevel move. And I've said exactly what you said. I don't care who gets signed, coordinator, head coach, or player. This is, by the end of the day, going to be either the best or a top 3 move by the end of the offseason.
Well, you have now Mike McDaniels can shift his focus 100% on that offense with Frank Smith and Darrell Bevel. That 3-headed monster is lethal. I truly believe it. And now we're out in the market, and we're going to get into it in a minute, but we might be able to go get one of the best offensive line coaches in football, too, to add to this team, right?
Yeah.
And then look at the defense side of the ball. Vic Fangio is going to bring some of his own guys in here. Yeah. But what gets me the most excited reason is that you and I both know how much talent's on this defense side of the ball. Like, you're going to see a rejuvenated Xavier Howard next year because Xavier Howard is going to play in a scheme where it's going to benefit him from strengths. You're going to see the jump from Javon Holland that we expected this year because, frankly, Josh Boyer screwed those veterans, and Holland's a younger guy, but he screwed them by throwing so much at them to accommodate for the injuries. And like, look, there had to be people that were sacrificed and things like that. But he really put Javon Holland in a situation where it didn't play to his strengths, in my opinion. traveling all over the field, becoming a different player this late in his career just didn't make sense.
That's not his. His strength is when him and Byron are splitting half the field,
But
right?
this defensive line under Vic Fangio, with Chubb, Phillips, Seiler, and Wilkins.
I'm telling you, that's why he came here. I'm telling you, he looked at that front. He's like, man, I just need to tweak that second level and that third level just a little bit. And I'm telling you, he knows you get a Levante David, you get a Tremaine Edmonds. I'll give you your TJ Edwards. You go get one of these middle line or Bobby Okereke or two of them. You go get a Bobby Okereke. You go get two of those guys. One or two of those guys. You flip that second level right away. And then, brother, listen, I think if we want to get a strong safety and a legitimate captain of this, I think that's only going to be about 20 to 25 million. And we've done the math. We can clear up to about 70.
Yeah, we can do it. And they're going to give Fangio toys. They didn't bring him in here.
We're going to talk about that. Let's talk about that right now. Because I'm going to ask you the question and we can start with that. Because that's one of the points I want to go here with off what you just said. So you kind of segued it. And this is the big title of the show. Is Vic Fangio the most powerful defensive coordinator in the NFL? And I'm going to list the reasons why I think he is, and I want your opinion because of what you said. Just nailed it. So
and I'll say this one thing before we jump into it. I'll say this. I think Vic Fangio overall is the best defensive coordinator in football since Rex Ryan was the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, wow, that's bold. Hey, man, look at the influence. You can't argue it right now. Literally, when a third of the league is running his stuff, right? Like, what are you going to say? Like, that's why people downplaying Vic Fangio coming to Miami is unbelievably ridiculous. Like, just tell me you don't know ball without telling me you don't know ball.
And that's why Reason, like you breaking down on your shows, showing the highlights of this defense, it's very important.
Wait till the film study drops. Now we got part 2 coming with the film study.
This, right? And I don't mean this in a mean way or kind of I do, but you see on Twitter all these people like, I don't understand why you're excited about Vic Fangio. Well, watch when Reason breaks it down because it will help you. It doesn't hurt to ask for help if you don't understand cover 6 schemes and like if you don't understand that stuff. It's okay. Not everyone has to be an expert. But watch it and become educated so you understand why there's so much value here. Like you can't.
Well, I just find the irony in it to me is I used to say to people who I know didn't know ball, explain to me cover 6 without Googling it. And now the irony is how much cover 6 we're going to be running, bro. My God.
It's going to be the defense we run a lot. And honestly, you know who's a really good fit for it? Reason? Cater Kohu.
Yeah, well, as long as you didn't say Noah Benogany, we're good.
No, and he's not going to. And like one thing I do want to say before we jump this, Vic Fangio is not all of a sudden going to make.
No, he's done. No.
It's not going to happen. That's
well,
not.
You mean like Ed Donatrell or someone like that is not going to make him like no.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, this is why I ask if he's the most. So let's start with this. Is he the most powerful defensive coordinator in the NFL? Let's start with this. Me and you nailed this, right? Me and you publicly reported. We heard it was between 4 to 4.5 million per year. Okay, right. We nailed this. All right. And now this has been confirmed. So check that as another one of, just we bring you the top-notch Fangio news since last offseason. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah, what does that say about Mike McDaniel, though, that he's willing to pay a coordinator as much as he's making to get him in here?
Well, that's a part of it, right? Like, is he the most powerful defensive coordinator because he's making as much and even more than some head coaches in the NFL? Another thing you talked about, toys. I've been told he's been giving full personnel say, and rightfully so, from staff down to the field on the defense. You look at this, my friend, and then we talked about this, we know why Mike McDaniel wants him. Not only is because, when you read Ted Wynn's article, you see about how McVay and LaFleur and Shanahan said that, Fangio is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL and the hardest to go up against. But I mean, he's got as much power as a head coach, but he's a coordinator, Neil. And like, that is a rarity. You do not see this very often, especially let it being publicly known how much he's making. We are talking legitimate money being spent here to bring in the best of the best. Like, no stone is being unturned. Talk about the red carpet being rolled out. He's got total personnel say, and it goes back to what we know McDaniel wants to do. He wants to it's what you said. He wants to focus on the offense. He wants to have a guy defensively that he can trust is going to make the right personnel decisions and implement the right game plans and installs defensively week by week, opponent by opponent. And he has found exactly that. What's crazy is we know how much, these guys coveted him, and a couple of those of the tree have chased him, and McDaniel was finally the one to land him. And we know, what has Spagnuolo been for Reed? What was Wade Phillips for McVay?
Right. Great point.
Even Shula. Who did Shula have? Right? Even Shula had, what's his face? Asbargner, right? So, I mean, everyone has someone. I mean, that was before my time. I was a little, I was young. But even he had Asbargner for 4 years?
Well, and that's why it's a coaching staff that matters, right? Like, that's the whole importance of it, is the ability to build stuff. Like, what Mike McDaniel has done in 2 years of building this staff, for a first-time head coach at his age, like, seriously, is absolutely remarkable. Like, Vic Fangio could have been the Falcons defensive coordinator. He could have been the Panthers. And the Panthers is an intriguing job to me because Brian Burns is there, Derek Brown.
But he's already been there, right? Like, he's already done that song and dance.
But it's like, to me, like, Mike McDaniel had to have a lot of influence on this decision. And that just tells me that Vic Fangio believes in Mike McDaniel's vision. He believes in the Miami Dolphins. And, look, we've given him some hard times on here, but Stephen Ross pulled out the checkbook, and you need a guy that's going to willing to do that. And I mean, to all of your points, man, like, you can't tell me a player on this team that this isn't going to help. Like, think about, like, Raekwon Davis, for example. The guy will exude and show dominant play once in a while, right? And then you'll be like, why is this guy so inconsistent?
Yeah.
Vic Fangio isn't going to put up with that. You're either going to be a consistent football player that gives 100% effort every time you're on that football field, or you're going to be sitting on the bench. And another thing, who else that I get excited about in this defense, Reason, is a guy that we were both probably had on the trade block, but Emmanuel Ogbah is a really good fit as a depth rotational piece.
EM Dolphin fan is doing laps right now because he wants to keep him, just because you can move him inside out. You can do so much with him, right?
Right. And like, you think about, our starters are pretty well established with Seiler, Wilkins, Chubb, and Phillips. But when you have a fresh Ogbah and a fresh Raekwon Davis coming out, kind of in the rotation, I mean, that is a hell of a defensive line. So, I mean, man, I couldn't be more excited about this. And, the $4.5 million, $4 to $4.5 million, that shows just how big of a move this was. Mike McDaniel saying, you know what? I don't have any pride, man. I'm good. I still got Brightlands on my...
But it also shows how imperative they believed he was to their success. I mean, I've talked about this before, and you've heard me, Neil. That's what got me. I love Barry Jackson. I love Barry Jackson, but that's what got me frustrated when he was like, I don't understand why everyone's making a big deal about defensive games, because people who know ball know how big of a ripple effect. I mean, we talked about him making McDaniel tooling the offense better. This isn't just a ripple effect defensively. This goes all the way to the offensive side of the football, and he could help McDaniel be he could become a better clock manager because of McVay. We don't know. But he could have, this guy could have a ripple effect through this team that, we already know, just our offense and players studying this defense and going up against it is going to make all that players, including our quarterback, probably take another step in their game.
Well, Reason, and you know what? Taking a step further, right? Like, we had Skylar Thompson, who entered the season as our third-string quarterback, who won a game, got us in the playoffs, and almost beat the Buffalo Bills. You get in the playoffs and anything can happen. We see it every year, right? I can tell you this with 100% confidence. Whoever we're playing in the playoffs next year, because we'll be there again, we could beat anybody at any time because Vic Fangio can create a scheme that can stop almost anybody. And that's where he's got so much experience, so much versatility to what he does. You never, he's going to come at you with 7 different kinds of smoke, to quote Owen Wilson and Yumi and Dupree, right? And that's the thing that gives me a lot of hope, is like, I truly believe Mike McDaniel is going to take a humongous leap as a play caller. I think his scheme was amazing. I think there were some times where his play calling pissed me off, but I think he's going to make leaps and bounds of an improvement in year 2 because he was a first-year head coach. I think Fangio is going to bring a discipline that this team might have lacked a little bit last year.
Yep.
And the things like the timeouts. He's going to make Mike McDaniel a better situational coach. He's going to make Chris Greer and company figure out how to add pieces to this defense. And all of those things make this team a better team. This is team building we haven't seen for the Miami Dolphins because their old MO used to be, let me go spend a lot of money on players. Now it's, we're going to spend a lot of money on players, but we're going to have the coaching staff and the infrastructure that's going to lead to long-term and consistent success.
There's a good chance that someone on his staff is going to be the guy he grooms to take over if that team option, after the team option is exercised, or if it isn't exercised in the 4th year. There's going to be someone on the staff. There's a good chance that the next coordinator is going to be someone that's in-house groomed under Fangio. Like, that is legitimately that, and that plays into what you just said. That's how you establish long-term success, is if you can establish a foundational philosophical beliefs on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and even special teams, and then you can consistently promote people who can take that foundation, add their twist to it, and update it as they come through. That's how the Patriots have churned out. Now, they haven't been successful in other places, but that's how the Patriots have continuously churned out people who have been successful in their system, rising through the ranks. You set your philosophical foundation in place, then you have new minds coming through that build off of it and move off the ranks. And it's like a machine, right? You just chew them up, you just spit them out, you just spit them out, you just spit them out.
And you know what happens? Guys you find in the 5th round start as role players, and they blossom to significant contributors and sometimes stars. I saw it here locally in Baltimore under that Rex Ryan defense. They at one time drafted Matt Judon in the 4th round and Zadarius Smith in the 4th round, and they were 2 of the top 6 pass rushers in terms of sacks in football. Like, when you find that type of talent and you develop it the right way, you don't have to go out and spend $25 million every year for a pass rusher. You can go find people that are a good value and put them in your defense. And first things first is, trust me, this linebacker core is going to get a brand new look. That you mentioned the names that are going to be out there. The draft is loaded with them. Yep. I wouldn't be shocked if we signed I'll say a big ticket linebacker in free agency.
And we're going to draft one too.
And draft one with one of those, 2nd or 3rd round picks that we have. Like who's moved up to my draft board, and I know it's in draft time yet, but dude, Jack Campbell from Iowa under Vic
I've been
Fangio.
talking about him out here. Like, I love Jack Campbell, bro.
Sign me up. Honestly, I'm good with using a round pick on him. I think you put him in
I've actually had a really good track record in recent years with linebackers too. Like, look at what Nick Bolton is for the Chiefs. Everyone remembers how much I freaking love that kid.
I like Tyndall. I hope Tyndall gets some play though. I hope that he gets a chance to develop here.
I think he will. Yeah, because the one thing that he showed coming out of Georgia, and the one thing I highlighted that he showed, even in his limited snaps, he showed instincts that Baker and Atlanta Robertson stuff didn't possess. That's why I was okay with him. He just needed more reps in pass coverage because he shows crazy instincts against the run, like crazy, stupid instincts against the run. And you could develop those against the pass, just need reps, right? And that's the thing. Tyndall's got a crazy skill set too. So, listen, I like him going forward. But continuing on here, let's talk about the Outkick article that came out yesterday. In case people don't know what I was actually live yesterday when the news broke, not too long after the news broke, that it was going around the Senior Bowl, and Schefter, you finally got your Schefter confirmation, Neal. But while I was going live with that, just near it ended by the time. Yeah. By the time near it ended, Armando Salguero put out this article and said Miami Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel is looking for a new offensive line coach after relieving Matt Applebaum of those duties after one season. A source told Outkick interviews for the newly open position are already underway, and one candidate who is already interviewed is Dan Rocher of the New Orleans Saints. Another source said the Dolphins went through a half a dozen tackles in 2022. An offensive coordinator, Frank Smith, was pulled into needing help to coach the line. McDaniel wants to hire someone who can do the job himself so that Smith can concentrate on his coordinator duties. The Dolphins, it should be noted, have a curious recent history of hiring and firing offensive line coaches very quickly. I mean, we could talk about, remember Brian Flores, what he would do, right? He would turn them over like you wouldn't believe. The club has been able to find offensive line coach it deems suitable enough to work beyond one season at the job since 2014, 2015.
Well, you know what?
Unbelievable.
I say this. I don't view moving on from coaches fast in that capacity. You know, it's not like you're changing your offensive coordinator and defensive coach every year. Like this is like, you gave them a chance. You did not see the improvement in the young guys that we needed to see to make this line better. The line was better because Terran Armstead and Connor Williams came, and they were better players.
Yeah.
But I didn't see a lot of positive.
But even all of us scratched our head. Why is Lemuel Jean-Pierre still on the staff, even if you massively demoted him? Why is he still here coaching offensive line? The guy straight up told y'all if he would have drafted Wirfs, he would have kicked him to guard. Get that man off of my team. Like, see, that's the thing here too. Like, you know, and I don't know if you were one of them, so sorry if this shoe fits, bro, but Twitter, YouTube, wherever, during the season, when Robert Hunt looked like he was regressing and taking penalties he had never taken before, when, you know, the offensive line was continuously taking penalties, everyone started calling for McDaniel's head, and I was the one that said, whoa, hold on a sec here. Why is no one coming for the first-time offensive line coach we took from Boston College, who clearly looks like he's out of his depth right now? Like, it was very evident Matt Applebaum was out of his depth. Dude, listen, at the end of the day, when it comes to that kind of stuff, sure, Mike McDaniel is known for his wherewithal with bringing up offensive linemen, i.e. Trent Williams and such, but he's an overseer right now. He is not hands-on with every single department and sub-department offensively. He just doesn't, you don't have the time to be like that. You like, that's the thing. It's the same thing with, you're seeing the same thing with Boyer, with Applebaum. I can't trust you to handle the personnel yourself and to handle I can't go like this with you and oversee. I got to focus resources on helping you. And Matt Applebaum, we just don't, we listen, we saw regression in Robert Hunt when we expected a leap. Austin Jackson and Eichenberg looked even worse at times. You know, Eichenberg looked like he was hitting that stride right before he got injured, came back, looked like he'd fallen right off the cliff again. Austin Jackson was a struggle, especially when he looked okay in preseason, but then that injury crept in. Done. So, I mean, you know, like,
dude, I'm with you. I think that
I like Dan Rocher, but go get Mike. I said this when I was on the phone with the EM, and then someone responded to my tweet yesterday, and I ran out of characters because his name was originally in the tweet. Go get Mike Munchak, man. The guy, you know, one thing I've been stressing that I think they waited on Crossman for, Neil, is I think they've been waiting on Fangio's Rolodex to an extent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like, who do you know? Who would you recommend? Because usually defense and special teams go hand in hand to an extent, right, Neil?
Right. But first, you're Mike Munchak. That's the best hire you can make in the offensive line available right now. That's an A+ hire. You go out and make it. For me, Liam Eichenberg, you know, it's not to break it off the line, but he's a depth guy going forward. I don't think he should be the starter. I actually have a little bit of hope if they move Austin Jackson in the left guard. I would like to see Austin Jackson at left guard be his primary position.
Connor and
and let him really study, and then you go out and get a solidified right tackle and fix the line. But you know, look, you have to coach young talent. There's nobody younger in the league than Austin Jackson. Matt Applebaum, like, when another coach is stepping into your meeting to coach, I mean, that you're gone. You got to go. And I respect Mike McDaniel for saying, you know what, we gave you a shot. Get the hell out of here. This is the NFL, man. This isn't Boston College.
Yo, Neil, he's a killer, eh?
See?
Mike McDaniel's a killer, eh? Like, you're starting to see he ain't Mike McDaniel. He's funny. He's jokes and games at the podium, but he's a killer if you do not perform, huh? Like, he's got a, I love it. Like, I love it. Neil.
You see how many zeros are on those paycheck these guys get, these coaches, these players? That comes with accountability, man. If you're not doing your job and other people have to wipe your ass, like, dude, I said this I do my business like Alexander Sosa from Scarface, right?
Yep.
Don't you ever F me. Don't you ever F me. Like, that's the real world, man. I wish it was all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, but that's not the world we live in. You have a job to do. If you don't do it to the level you're paid at, I'm sorry. he'll go get another job in college. There's no doubt about it. It's not like this guy's going to be hard off. He just wasn't a fit for the Miami Dolphins. Mike Munchak, he's got ties to Vic Fangio. They come from the same hometown. He's an old school, hard-nosed discipline. Like a lot of people know
him in Denver, right?
Watch him play when he was in Houston. He was a monster.
Yeah.
Like he is a beast. Like that is the type of guy. Because you know what? With offensive line comes an attitude. I am going to put you into the ground.
One of the best left guards ever, bro. One of the best left guards ever, right?
I'm going to put you in the ground every play. You need the offensive line to have that type of mentality. And look, I think Taron has it. I think Connor at times played like that. But and Robert Hunt.
Neal.
Yeah. Right. I do love that meme that we see with Sosa and Tony that's always out there now whenever you see something. It's one of my favorite scenes of the movie with the corny 80s music in the background, one
of my favorite movies ever, bro. I remember the first time I watched that movie.
It's my number 2, my number 1 Shawshank Redemption, but my number 2 is Scarface.
Bro, side note, I gotta ask you, did you like so you have you seen that Godfather in Harlem show?
I have
with
not.
Forrest Whitaker?
No.
Bro.
Good.
Did you like American Gangster?
Love it.
It's the prequel to American Gangster. Forrest Whitaker's Bumpy Johnson.
Oh,
it's in the 60s. Check it out. EM Dolphin fan put me onto it. Bro, I watched the first episode last night. Just saying. I know now that I know a little bit of your taste. Check it out.
Oh, dude, I've seen The Sopranos from.
I just watched it. I just watched it for the 6th time a year ago, 9 months ago.
Yeah, man. My favorite television character of all time is Christopher Montesanti. That's my favorite of all time.
Wow, that was sad, bro. He has one of the saddest arcs ever. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And Paulie, man, you can't get rid of Paulie, man.
Paulie's the man, bro.
They're stuck in the van eating ketchup packets. That's like my
favorite. My god, bro! The episode with was it the Russian or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was amazing, bro. Anyways.
Yeah, no, we digress. But no, look, I know we're excited. I'm not spending this off season worrying about Tua. Tua is the guy. I'm confident Tua is a top 10 quarterback in football. I feel really good about that. I feel really good about this offense. Now I feel great about this defense. I'm really excited to see free agency in a little bit over a month because I think, look, players want to play in Miami already for all the sunshine, the no state tax. Now you have a winning football team with an amazing head coach that's created a great culture, and you have Vic Fangio coming here. The Dolphins, if this continues in this trajectory, is going to become one of the most desired places to play in football. Just bottom line, this era of Miami Dolphins fandom, I think what we're going to see over the next 3 to 5 years is probably. I'm 40 years old. I've been a fan since I was 5, so I think it's going to be the most fun I've had in 35 years as a Dolphin fan. I truly believe that. I don't see it slowing down. I think us edging our way into the playoffs is the floor of what we're going to see. I think the Dolphins are going to become one of the big boy teams in this league, brother.
And the other thing too is really with Mike Munchak, that's our first choice. Dan Rauscher, we were talking about this is a guy who developed Taron Armstead, Ryan Ramchuk, but the good thing is they're both 62 years old, meaning they're both here. Probably this might be their last ride, right? And so we're going to put their all into that. Yep. So. Man, I'm so excited, bro. I'm just so excited to see this come to fruition, my friend.
Well, now you can start looking at the free agency names and saying who's a fit. Where you're going to get those players. I've already said that my favorite fit for this team now is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But look, that's a huge price tag. That's going to be $15 million a year. I really like TJ Edwards as a fit in his defense, linebacker from the Eagles. He's going to probably cost you $10 million a year in today's price tag, but he's a really, really good player. You mentioned the 4 or 5 linebackers there really are out there. You're going to need another safety in this defense.
I've heard Jermaine, a name, and I've reported this on Patreon. I've heard Jermaine Pratt for over a month and a half.
Yeah, the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm hearing Edmonds a little bit. I'm hearing Edmonds' name a little bit too. So
yeah, and we've seen some rumors around Jordan Poyer. I don't know how. I know he has a house in South Florida. I don't know how concrete they are. One guy that I think
everyone wants Noah, but he's gonna be gone, guys. By the time we pick, I will be shocked if Noah Sewell is on the board.
Yeah, you know what though? I honestly, he's a good player.
I don't think he's gonna be there though.
I'd rather have Henry Tuatua or Totoa, and I'd rather have Jack Campbell.
I want Jack. Jack's who I want.
Yeah, I would have both of them. And then I'm telling you, another guy is Dayan Henley from Washington State.
Yeah, he's a beast.
I wish I was at the Senior Bowl. I wasn't there. I got a couple texts from people there. I heard Dayan Henley was the best linebacker there. And then one text I got was like, I looked at your draft.
I heard Spears is.
Tajay Spears is a guy that I freaking love.
Yeah.
And then the one text I got is, what the hell is wrong with you having Will McDonald number 50 on your big board? That guy's going in the first round for sure. And Will McDonald's the defensive end from Iowa State. But I mean, but the one thing, I mean, DeJuan Jones, the right tackle, Ohio State, Jalen Duncan from Maryland, some of those tackles.
He had a big week. Yeah. He had a big week.
And those guys playing well is kind of important for the Dolphins because when you sit at pick 51, right? And that means, right, that only 50 players are going above you, right? So you're going to see all these top 50 boards, and there's going to be a lot of, differences among people. But the one thing that is going to happen is a really good talent is going to fall in their lap. And I'll give a sneak preview. I've been working on my first mock draft, and I only go to round 3 because I wait for compensatory picks to be officially announced because I don't want to have to do a lot of work. And I only can do 2 rounds now because if free agency is crazy and changes everything, I got to start all over, right? So I kind of want to wait. I had the Dolphins getting Jahmyr Gibbs and at pick 51, and that's really because I couldn't find a spot for him beforehand. I had pass rushers galore go, and once you get those cornerbacks in, right, because there's guys like Deonte Banks from Maryland who they're not getting out of the top 40 anymore, and Eli Ricks from Alabama's moving up boards. Yeah. I mean, running back positions devalued, like, dude, I had Bijan Robinson falling to pick 28. Like, it's pretty crazy because I think Bijan Robinson is the 3rd best player in this entire draft. I just couldn't fit him in, man. Like, there's only so many picks. So, and I would tell you this right now, man. If you could walk away with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, I don't. That would be an A draft for me.
A++.
And that's where, like, look. Go get your guy. Like, and we've talked about this a lot of times on our pod, and we're going to talk about the draft. We're not going away. There's going to be not an off season for us.
That's why it's so imperative you handle free agency properly so you can afford, because we got 3 picks on day 2, you can afford one of those to be a luxury pick like a running back.
We should have Tristan Wirfs at right tackle right now instead of Austin Jackson, right? We should have that. That was in move. We would have had to give up a 4th round pick to make that happen. That was all. It was a 4th round pick that prevented Tristan Wirfs from coming here.
Well, tell everyone the rest of the package. Everyone's going to think it was a 4th round pick.
No,
it was our first. It was that and what was it? The Hunt pick. It was the Hunt pick, right? It was the Hunt pick or the Noah pick.
No, it was moving up. No, it was moving up from Austin at 18 to where I think Wirfs went 14.
Were we 19? Didn't CD go 18?
Okay, maybe we were 19. To move up 5 spots, it was a 4th rounder and a swap of a 2nd round pick, meaning the Robert Hunt
That's
pick,
what it was. It was the Hunt pick. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a swapping the Hunt pick.
Like 10 spots. So, I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, like, it was a move that I make 10 out of 10 times. You go your guy. You got to go get your guy. Like, I don't care how many draft picks you have. Leave the draft with 2 bona fide starters if that's what you got to do. Like,
Tristan Wirfs was one of the first. Listen, I came into this community in October 19. Okay. The 3 players I banged the table for in that first round, Tua Tagovailoa, Tristan Wirfs, Jonathan Taylor. I rest my case.
And we could have had
I rest my case, bro. Oh my God.
We could have had them all. And like, so like, that's where like a lot of people, because like, look, we could have 2 shows on Chris Greer, the goods and the bads. The thing is, he swings really big. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not. The 2 picks of Austin Jackson and Noah Benogany hurt a lot, obviously. But you got to think, really, like, no team bats 100 in the first round. It's just it magnifies and amplifies when you have those 2 picks back to back in that draft. But like, see, I view Tua as an A pick. You got a top 10 quarterback in football. Like, And I think he'll get better. I honestly think he's going to have a good year. Another guy that I just wanted to mention that I think is a fit that could be really cheap is Kareem Jackson. He's 34, so he's older. But on a 1 year, like $2-3 million deal, he's versatile. You know, he was a corner coming out of Alabama. He played under Fangio. He played corner. He played safety. He does a lot of little things. He brings some good leadership to that defense. You know, he's a multi-time Pro Bowler. I think that's another name that you could find as a good value. But man, like now I'm excited about the offseason again, right?
I'm telling you, the one I know you love Jahmyr Gibbs, and if that all falls, I love it. But I'm telling you, if Devin A-Chain falls to us, that 4.2 speed in this offense out of the backfield, I've been preaching it for weeks. I mean, that kid could be crazy explosive in our offense, bro.
I have him going third as the running backs and Charbonnet going fourth.
I love it, man.
And they're studs. They're all studs.
They are studs.
They
are studs.
And I need fresh legs in this. But no, man, I'm really excited. I can't wait till you see him in Miami with that little paper signing it on their the thing. But the cool thing is I like about Vic Fangio, even though it stressed me out to no end, he does business his own way. You know, he does it old school. He wants to be there in person, but he wants to finish the duties that he has. He wants to make sure that all of his responsibilities are tied. I think it's a really important thing that when you take a job, you don't change who you are. I think that's really important. And Vic Fangio ain't changing who he is for anybody. He's he's a badass 64-year-old man that beats to his own drum. But you know what? He's our defensive coordinator, and I can't wait to see. And I just want to know what Vegas's odds for Jalen Phillips Defensive Player of the Year are, because I'm going to be jumping on.
I'm jumping on it, baby. I'm doubling down on Tua for MVP. Sorry, doubling.
And all those laps and all the things that were said about Bradley Chubb being a bad pick. You know, it's like being mad when you roll the dice and you get Marvin Gardens on the first time and you didn't, roll a 99 and land on boardwalk because you can't do it, right? Like Bradley Chubb is going to be familiar in this system. It's a system he is accustomed to, his experiences in, and
got a Pro Bowl in.
Yeah, and don't take for granted the relationship he has there. That is going to be awesome to watch, man. Fins up, man. I am so excited. It's Friday, another week close retirement. I got a bottle of whiskey. I'm having a celebratory Friday. I'm drinking one for every age of Vic Fangio, man. I might put down 60 tonight. We'll see what we have.
We got two more things to go over here. Number one, Mike Kliss, because this is of interest to us.
Right.
He said, not only had the Broncos requested an interview for Seattle associate head coach Sean Desai for the DC job, but Desai has withdrawn from consideration for the Minnesota defensive coordinator job. Desai interviewed with the Vikings last week, wants to concentrate on Denver. Fangio recommended Denver to Desai. And then it goes into Desai was defensive assistant for Fangio when Fangio was the Bears defensive coordinator from 2015 to 2018. Given Fangio's connection with Sean Payton, Desai is a strong candidate as Denver coordinator, providing Hero Evero leaves. So let's talk about this for a sec, because this kind of lines up with
a lot of layers to that.
Yeah, let's start with this. We can both agree that if he does not get the Denver job, what I've been hearing about him coming to Miami, you could probably pretty much lock that one down, huh?
Right.
Like he's not going to stay in Seattle. Now, what your thoughts on this? Would you be shocked if they let Evero walk? And if Evero walks, if you're the Dolphins, you just swap, try to bring Evero onto your staff? I mean, you could bring Evero, Chris Richard, and Ed Donatrell onto the staff and find positions for them. What do you pursue Evero? Because Evero was running a form of Fangio's system, right? So what would you do there in that circumstance?
I would say this is the whole reason I didn't want Sean Payton as a head coach, man. I think this is a disaster. Sean Payton in Denver. You give up a first-round pick, you're paying this guy outrageous money, and he's getting rid of one of the better young defensive minds in football as his first move in business. Like, I think the defensive coordinator, and I can't pronounce his name, so I call him E squared. I think he's out. I think it's a bad move. And I'm hopeful that they choose Brian Flores, because if they do, I think Sean Desai is going to be on our staff, and that defensive staff with Vic Fangio, who's already an A+ type of coach, just gets even better. So I'm hoping that they don't sign or hire Sean Desai. But I think that says a lot about Vic Fangio, right? Is this organization that fired him prematurely in a year ago because they really frankly couldn't get the quarterback position right. Yep. And they get rid of him, and he's still looking out for one of his guys in Sean Desai and trying to help him get a job to a franchise that he probably in the back of his mind wants to MF behind their back, right? But with that said,
and help his friend Sean Payton out.
Right. I think E Squared is going to be gone from Denver. I think Desai, because of Vic Fangio's recommendation, is going to get strong consideration. I have a feeling that, man, they're going to end up with Brian Flores, though. I really do. I think Flores is a little bit more splashy of a name. And I think that Sean Payton's trying to create a splash there, right? Like, I think that's what's going to happen. So I think it's a good look for Vic Fangio. I think it could end up being a really good thing for the Dolphins, because if Desai doesn't get the job, where are you going to go? To the guy who just recommended you, groom under him for a couple of years, and
you're the next up here,
right? And that for us is the best case scenario. But man,
buddy, if that ends up happening, Neal, where Desai comes over here, bro, we are just racking W's up, huh? Like, holy!
And I'm so happy I'm not a Denver Broncos fan. When you trade a first-round pick for Sean Payton, man, he doesn't have a magic wand to make Russell Wilson the guy he was in Seattle. I think that team's going to implode. I think it's going to be an ugly scene. They're talking about trading one of the receivers. Like, their best player, I think, is Justin Simmons, and he's getting up there a little bit. I mean, and Pat Surtain's obviously a beast as well. But they traded away Bradley Chubb in the draft pick they got from him. They used on a coach. Like, I just, man, thank God we're Dolphins fans.
Right? I don't know if you saw this, but I wanted to get your opinion on this. Did you see this? Dan Orlovsky's top 5 QBs of all time. He had Tom Brady at 1, Mahomes at 2, Elway at 3, Manning at 4, and our boy Danny Boy at 5.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because that's pretty damn high praise from Mahomes, who's only a couple years in.
That's the first thing I see. And shout out to our buddy Mr. Ballgame in there.
And where's Montana?
Holding down in the chat. Mr. Ballgame, how's it going? For me, if this is my list, and I'm going to be completely objective here, Tom Brady's 1. It's not a shadow of doubt. Congrats to the GOAT. Hell of a career. Enjoy your retirement. I will say one thing that I thought was really interesting from Rich Eisen, right? Okay. Is that if Tua did somehow get hurt again, Miami has the best backup contingency plan locally in town with him living in Miami. I thought that was very interesting by Rich Eisen. I never thought of that. Way too early for Mahomes. I think Mahomes will be on this list when his career's over. I think it's Joe Montana number 2. I don't know where Joe Montana is on this list. I would put myself personally, Marino, at number 3. There probably is a little bit of homerism in there, but I think he's the best pure passer that ever played the game. Look, he didn't win a Super Bowl. Okay, football's a team sport. You have all those arguments. It is what it is. I would probably have Peyton at number 4. And honestly, if I was number 5 and I didn't get a chance to watch this guy play myself, but it's my dad's favorite player of all time, and because of it, I've watched a lot of games that are out there of him, and that's probably Johnny Unitas for me. So my 5 would be Brady, Montana, Marino, Peyton Manning, and Johnny Unitas. I mean, look, again, Mahomes is a great, great player. Can we really put him above a Drew Brees at this point? Can we really put him above? I mean, there's so many good Roger Staubachs out there. I mean, there's good quarterbacks. I mean, Mahomes, I think he wins another one here, and we're looking at a guy that's going to have 2 rings with a lot of time left to play. But I don't think he's 2. Elway is a top 10 quarterback to me. Elway won at the end of his career when he had a supercharged 12 days. Yeah,
that Bill Romanowski juiced up steroid defense. Like, right. I mean, I pretty much. So for me personally, it would be Brady, Manning, Marino, Montana, and then 5's always the sticky one for me. Like, who do you put there? And I agree with you. Like, I do not think.
Favre, I forgot about Brett Favre.
Yeah,
But
I don't think Mahomes has done enough. And Elway, I realized what it was in terms of how stacked he was. How stacked that team was. Number 5 to me, man. Whew, that's tough because I didn't watch Unitas, right? Like that was way before my time. Man, that's tough. But I guess it would have to be, it'd have to be Elway at the end there, I guess. Right? Like he's a better quarterback than Aikman, had more tools than Aikman.
How about Aaron Rodgers get any consideration, or just because he's literally went to a Super Bowl and never came back, did he kind of fade?
Yeah, it's not like he even got close to winning another one after that, eh? Like,
Well, I will tell you this, man. A guy that a lot of people.
But if you talk about like best natural throwers of the football ever, then it's Marino, Rodgers, and Mahomes.
Well, I'll tell you a guy that gets a lot of credit, and I think he's a hell of a commentator. Troy Aikman never had a season as good as Tua's this year.
I know. He was
never
carried.
He had 23 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in his highest output of a touchdown season. He 23 is the most touchdowns he ever threw in a season. He's got 3 rings, but that's why I always say that Super Bowl rings is a team stat. Quarterback wins. Like, I think your quarterback helps you win. I think there's a lot of gray area to that, right? Like, I don't think just because you don't have a Super Bowl ring doesn't mean that you're great. Like, Ed Reed to me is the greatest safety of all time. He has 1 ring, right? Devin McCourty has way more rings. But if I'm starting a team and both men are the same at the same time, give me Ed Reed 10 out of 10 times. Like, I think rings matter. I don't want to say they're not important, but I think there's context around it as well where, there's great players like Karl Malone and Dan Marino that don't have rings. And at the end of the day, look, man, if I'm starting a team from scratch and there's 10 GMs, one of those 10 picks is going to be Dan Marino.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man. Final thoughts here. And I just wanted to say this, and I'll let you go here. My final thoughts, because I want to get this out. I see a lot of people are overreacting to Chris Sims and Florio having the interview with Tua Tagovailoa. And I don't like Chris Sims and Florio. I think they're a bunch of idiots. But all this gatekeeping I'm seeing, like, oh, I don't like Tua's interviewing with them. I don't like this. First of all, he's his own man. None of us can influence his decision. Okay. So I don't know why people are like taking it personally. Number 2, who knows? Tua could go up there and freaking own these guys, in which I hope he's going to do, or he could humble them. Either way, he's either going to own them or he's going to humble them, because they ain't going to be popping off to his face the way they have behind his back. That's for sure. And if they do, I'm sure that's going to be put in this place real quick. So I think the gatekeeping about this interview is a little bit too much for me. I'm interested to see the dynamic. Tua knows the crap they've spoken. They know the crap they've spoken. Let's see if they're all of a sudden on the best behavior and tuck their tails between their legs. And I think that's a story too. But your final thoughts before we get out of here, Neal?
Yeah, man. Look, one of Tua's superpowers is his composure. He doesn't flinch, man. He doesn't look. He's a bigger man. He can go there and he can sit down and he can say, look, I know all the trash you guys talk about me, but it doesn't bother me. I'm here. I'm to your face. I'm not going away. You can sit there and write me off, and you could say Tom Brady's coming here, and you should do this and that. That's one of the best things about Tua Tagovailoa is he doesn't give an S. He'll be there. He'll be at your face. And it's funny for all these people that crap on him. You know what? I bet you the Eagles at halftime when they're losing to the Chiefs in 2 weeks in the Super Bowl would love to call him in and help him come finish the job that Hurts couldn't do, just like he didn't do it at Alabama, right? Like, let's call it what it is. The guy's a winner. He's got one of the best win-loss records in football as a quarterback that starts on this football team. And at the end of the day, like, this is our quarterback. We're going to go up with Tua. We're going to go down with him. And I'm betting on another leap from him. At the end of the day, Chris Sims, Mike Florio, they're talking heads. You know what I mean? Skip Bayless, all these guys, they get paid. All the controversy they cause is why they make the big checks. They don't make big checks because they know football better than anyone. They do it because they have a platform and cause controversy. And to quote the old WCW, Eric Bischoff, controversy equals cash. And if you can do that, people listen to you. People like to watch car wrecks. We lived in a messed up world in 2023. We don't hold the door from any people anymore. And if someone's getting beat out to death, we videotape it and we put it on TikTok. Like, that's the world we live in now. And at the end of the day, like, Everyone wants to see this young man who's done nothing but hold himself to the highest standards fail. And instead, he'll probably win a Super Bowl before anyone else in that draft class.
Love it. Love it. Another thing I wanted to shout out. Yesterday we had a donation. Right as the show ended, I had a PayPal donation from Jacqueline. She donated $50 yesterday, so I wanted to give out a shout out to Jacqueline for the PayPal donation I received yesterday, because I didn't see it till after the show, and I hit her up and I said, "Hey, don't worry, I'll give you a shout out tomorrow." I appreciate the constant support, guys, and it's only going to get better. We got film study next week's going to drop part 2 of analyzing the X's and O of Vic Fangio's defense that he will be bringing to the Dolphins. On top of that, now we can move forward. We'll look into the top needs in free agency for the Dolphins, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. And for Patreons, I hope you enjoyed the 3 Takes Thursday yesterday. I thought it was one of the best episodes. And like I said, for channel members and Patreons, what I'm going to be doing for the off season is on Mondays, I will post a thread. You will be able to ask questions or request topics you want to hear me, Richmond, and Ballgame talk about on the finish line. And I'll be doing every Tuesday for Patrons and channel members only. I'll be dropping a thread for you to leave questions or topics you want me and Neal to discuss on the finish line. So we're going to make it a little more fan interactive for all of you guys. All right. So as always, Neal, a pleasure. We got our guy, baby. Like, we got the belle of the ball. We weren't left at the altar. How good does it feel that we are doing the salsa and the cha-cha with the one that everyone wanted, right? Beautiful.
It's amazing. And Reason, real quick, just let me give a shout out to our buddy Richmond Webb. My aunt is going through breast cancer. There was a GoFundMe, and Richmond made a very generous donation. And I met Richmond through you, Reason, and he's obviously a friend of ours. The gold jacket in Canton eludes him, but he is, to me, the best left tackle the Dolphins have ever seen. He's a humble guy, man. You go to a tailgate, and if he's at the game, he'll come up, he's talking. He's just a laid back, great guy. But I wanted to give a shout out to Richmond because I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And you're such a great dude, and it means a lot to me. And if you ever need anything back, man, you hit me up, and I'm there for you.
And everyone in the chat, send your well wishes to Neal. Send the prayers up to Neal. Needs all the energy he can get. And throw those Richmond Webb emojis, because we got an emoji on this channel of Richmond Webb in the gold jacket. So throw those emojis in the chat. Celebrate Richmond and send positive vibes and good energy towards Neal. Neal, I appreciate you. Everyone else, I appreciate y'all. We'll be back next week. Well, probably Thursday next week for everyone, everyone watching. So we'll see all y'all next week. Fins up.